Okay, so we'll begin. So first of all, I'll introduce you to Who's Who. But before we do, we always like to start our displays with a wave. But these guys will only wave at you if you guys wave at them. So come on, I want to see everybody sticking an arm in the air, give them a nice wave, don't be shy. You can look as silly as me. You get a nice wave from you guys? There's a nice wave. What about you two, Ruby? You going to give everyone a nice little wave? As I said, she's going to look at this head microphone and the camera, so she might be a little bit nervous that she's not used to this. The sounds also like clapping too, so if you see them clapping, if you see them doing this, then you know what to do. Give them a nice round of applause, lots of clapping, lots of cheering. It lets them know that they've done really well. Now, as I said, we've got Ruby, and Ruby is on the rock. She is 3 years old, and she does do the training, and she is still learning a lot of behaviours for the demonstrations and for the displays, but she is very young, and just like children, they do become very nervous when anything new is thrown their way, or if there's anything different. So of course we have to do a lot with her this winter, hopefully integrating her into the displays this year. Next here we have Anya. Anya here is 9 years old. She is actually the mother to the little baby on the back. And don't worry, that little baby is only on milk. They don't eat fish until they're at least 10 months to a year old. That little one there is only about 6-7 months old now. So she's still on milk from Anya. And as I said, Anya here is 9. And the next here we have Gina. And Gina here is 13 years old. And Gina is actually mother to Ruby. We've had actually over 40 sea lions born here at Blackpool Zoo in 30 years of keeping sea lions. We've sent them off to different zoos and marine parks all over the UK and Europe. But Gina and Anya are sisters. They do get on most of the time. Can we have a kiss? Can you kiss each other? Yeah, they're very cheeky, but they are very naughty, especially when we're wearing the head microphone, because they do, of course, get a little bit complacent when we're doing the demonstrations. So I apologise if the sea lions decide they don't want to behave or swim off. As I said, I'm wearing the head mic and also the camera, which is, of course, a little bit new to them. Now, these guys are sea lions. They are not seals. People always confuse a seal with a sea lion. You guys do not like being called a seal. No, they're not seals whatsoever. They are sea lions. And there are some very easy ways that you can tell the difference between a seal and a sea lion. Some very easy ways, just by very quickly looking at them. The type of sea lion that we have here at Blackpool Zoo is what we call Californian sea lion. And Californian sea lions are a very common species of sea lion found in many zoos and marine parks across the world. And one of the ways is by looking at the side of their head. Now if I just point to the side of Anya there, you can see how she's got a little ear on the side of her head there. A little external ear on the side of her head. That is only a characteristic of a sea lion. Get the camera. There we go. And as you can see, a little sticky out part of the ear, just like that. Seals do have ears, but it's usually just a very small hole on the side of the head, often covered by fur. So if they've got that ear, you know you're looking at a sea lion and not a seal. That's one difference. Another very big difference are those big flat front flippers. So can we see those big front flippers, please? Can we lift them up nice and high? Gina, can we see those front flippers? There we go, thank you. And they've got these big front flippers which they use in different ways. Seals have a front flipper no bigger than a human hand. So if you compare my hand to the sea lions you can see in front of me, you can see a big size difference there between my hand and the sea lions front flippers. Good demonstration there, you two, well done. Don't forget to give them a nice round of applause. They do like lots of cheering, lots of clapping. But also seals have 5 large claws on their front flippers which help drag themselves along the ground, and they also use for scratching. Whereas a sea lion like Gina, Anya and Ruby do not have any claws on their front flippers. They only have 3 very small claws on their back flippers, which of course aren't any use for sea lion, just they use them for the odd occasion to give themselves the odd scratch. So they've got these big front flippers there which they use in different ways. Because of that size difference, on land they walk differently too. And if Gina comes for a small walk with me, you'll see how she walks on all 4 flippers. The back flippers sit just underneath, the front flippers sit lower, the front half of the body clear off the ground. So they can run, they can jump, they can climb. They're very, very agile on land as well as in the water. You can see her tummy does not touch the floor at all when she walks and moves on land. But Gina, how does a seal move? Come do your seal impression for us. Like that. They slide on the ground on their bellies like that because their front flippers are far too small and too short to stand or walk on. They have to drag themselves along the ground using those claws and those little front flippers in order for them to move on land. Good demonstration there, Gina, well done. And also, only a sea lion can clap too. A seal cannot clap because their front flippers are far too small and too short. They don't meet in the middle. Good impression there, Gina, well done. Now we train all of our sea lions here through a method of training called positive reinforcement. And before we train any behaviours for the displays, we train them so that we can look after them properly. Very, very important that we're able to look after our sea lions on a day-to-day basis. And we start all of their training from about the age of a year old when they start to eat fish. And we train them so we can examine their bodies from head to tail. We can also ask the sea lions to open their mouths, so we can check their teeth. We haven't got to net them or restrain them, just look inside their mouths. We can look inside their mouth and we can check all of their teeth, and hopefully if there's any problems there, hopefully we can have a good look inside to make sure that everything is nice and healthy. Sea lions' teeth are a nice brown black colour. That's not because they're rotten, that's because of the oil in the fish. Over a long time, it does stain their teeth, it does discolour their teeth, and that's why they go this really dark brown black colour. But sea lions' teeth are much more resilient to ours, which of course means that they don't get the same bacteria that we would drop them. But as you can see, she'll open her mouth nice, and if you look closer there, you can see how those teeth there are this nice brown black colour. Also, the sea lions are all trained to lay down. This is very, very useful to do health checks and examinations. So as you can see, Anya here will lay down nice and flat on her belly. So you're going to lay down first. There you go. So I can check it from head to tail, all over her body, just like that. It means that she had a cut or a scrape, or she got into an altercation with another sea lion, a fight or something like that, which can happen. Even in the wild, it happens very, very regularly. It means we can examine them, we can make sure they're nice and healthy. They will roll over onto their backs like this, so we can do and check the underside of their belly. And again, this is a very good place to listen to their heart. And again, if the sea lion was pregnant, we could ultrasound the sea lion, and of course check the pregnancy of how the baby is doing. And as you can see here, Gina will do this, sorry, Anya will do this very nicely. Gina will do this too. Ruby is also trained to do this, and it's something that's very, very important, looking after all of our sea lions. So nicely demonstrated there. And we use a whistle. When the sea lions are behaving correctly, the whistle, that means correct. It lets the sea lion know that they've done the behaviour correctly, and then of course we can reward them with a piece of fish. We can give them big pieces of fish for when they do something really well, small pieces of fish for when they get a little bit lazy or if they're not, of course, very, very attentive. And we train through a series of different hand commands, hand signals, which you guys don't notice, but the sea lions are, of course, watching them all the time. Now, sea lions are very, very good and naturally gifted when it comes to catching. Sea lions eat fish, and fish are very hard to catch. They're very, very wiggly and they're very fast swimmers. So sea lions have to be just as quick in order to chase and catch their food. So they have a long, streamlined body and a long, flexible neck, which they can strike out the long neck in order to make a catch. I've got 4 rings here. I'm going to hopefully demonstrate this catching now with Gina to start with, and see if she can catch all 4 of these rings. We have a bit of a saying between zookeepers, and that's eyes at the side, ready to hide, eyes at the front, ready to hunt. So sea lions have 2 forward-facing eyes, so they can judge distance and they can judge speed. Very, very important. You can see she strikes out that neck in order to catch those hooks, and it's so often used in the wild when chasing behind fish and snatching them from the water. She's caught those 3 very, very easily. This time I'm going to flip it to Gina. Hopefully she'll just ahead of the last second. Ready to catch that hoop. Nicely caught there, Gina. Well done. As I said, eyes at the side, ready to hide, eyes at the front, ready to hunt. So animals which have 2 forward-facing eyes, such as sea lions, tigers, lions, bears, wolves, all have 2 forward-facing eyes. They are predatory animals, which means they have to chase and catch their food in order to survive. Animals which have eyes at the side of the head, such as chickens, rabbits, antelope, all have eyes at the side of the head. So they're usually animals which have to hide against larger animals that are trying to prey upon them, of course, for food. So this time I'm going to send Anya into the pool. As you can see, she's going to catch these hoops before they hit the surface of the water. By asking the sea lions to catch hoops in the water makes it a little bit more challenging and a little bit more tricky, so the sea lions are both kept mentally and physically active. Very, very important for their physical and mental welfare and well-being. Of course, sea lions catch fish in the water. Catching hoops in the water is no different. As you can see, she can swim different areas there to catch those hoops from the pool very, very easily. Well done. Sometimes we throw them high, sometimes low, and sometimes fast, sometimes slow. We're constantly swapping and changing the routine of the sea lions. Of course, different sea lions doing different things in every demonstration. So it doesn't become too repetitive, or we're not asking the same sea lions to do the same behaviours. They have to wait their turn, and as you can see, Ruby here is just going to sit on her rock and get fed. I'm not actually going to do anything with Ruby in this particular demonstration. A, because I'm wearing the camera, and B, I can't concentrate on her whilst I'm doing the demonstration with the added fact I'm wearing this camera on my head. So she's just going to hopefully sit there on her rock, but she may decide to go into the pool with one of the 2 of the other behaviours in a short while, because she likes to follow her mum when doing these behaviours. But there's one thing that people always associate with the sea lion, and that is their ability to balance a ball. Everyone knows that sea lions are very, very good when it comes to balancing, but not everybody knows how they do this. It's not something that a sea lion can just naturally do, it's something that we have to teach and train the sea lions to do. It can take a sea lion anything from well over a year, if not 2 or 3 years to learn how to do this, and that's every single day, at least 3 to 4 times a day, every day before they learn how to do this with the ball on the nose. The secret in the skill is using the whiskers around their nose, which are very, very sensitive to any touch or movement, and they can feel which way the ball's moving, which way it's rolling, using those long, sensitive whiskers. So if the water's too dark, too murky, Or if a sea lion in the wild happens to lose his eyesight, they can still survive, relying on those whiskers to help them find fish. And a very similar method is used when balancing the ball. We start to teach and train the sea lions to do this at about Ruby's age, about 2-3 years old, because they're too little to hold such a large ball on those until they're about this sort of size. Oh, you want to try? She's learning this at the moment. We're teaching her how to do this, but she's doing very, very well. Okay, you've done okay, haven't you? You want to do more? Okay. But as I say, she's learning to do this. I thought the camera might put her off. But as you can see, she's only doing it just for a few seconds. When she does it for a few seconds, that's it, the whiskers are nice and high. Well done, Ruby. And then she gets a piece of fish. And that just point and proof cases that they enjoy doing these behaviours. I didn't ask her to do that. They enjoy doing these behaviours. It's very, very important that we keep that rapport with this time. They get used to our tone of voice, our body language, and of course the way that we move, just as we do with them. And of course the more we work with them, the better they are, and of course the more consistent we can be with the training, which in turn allows us to be very, very good with their welfare and their upkeep. Let Gina have a go. Oh, I'm going to pass it to Gina. So you pass it to big sister. There we go. Gina can also do this. She lets the whiskers do the work. But again, just like with the hoop catching, we like to make it more interesting and more challenging by asking them to pass the ball between themselves, of course pass it back to me. Well done you two, very, very good. But also, we can then ask them to walk with the ball and swim with the ball, which does require extra training. As I say, just to balance the ball in one place without walking and without swimming with the ball does require extra training. And some sea lions may never learn to do that. Some of them can only sometimes be good at other behaviours more so than others, and of course it's no different than with us. Some of us are very good at certain things and some of us aren't, and it's no different with the sea lions. Some of them can be brilliant at balancing the ball and they pick it up very, very quickly, whereas other sea lions may never learn to do it and it can take a long time. Have you got water in that bowl? I think there is some water. It's very heavy, yeah, there's some water in that, but never mind, you tried anyway, Anya. Well done, very, very good. Give yourself a round of applause. Well, can I kiss? Thank you. You too, Gina. Well done, very, very good. But as I said, there is some water in this, so you can push the water out, which makes it a little bit heavy sometimes, and they get a little bit cheeky when doing the demonstrations, and a little bit lazy, especially when, as I say, when the camera and the microphone, they do play on that a little bit. So there we go. But sea lions in the wild are hunted by two predators. There are two animals which like to eat sea lions in the wild, yes, and that is one of which is the shark. And also the killer whale. Killer whales are very dangerous to a sea lion in the wild, especially in open water. And we're going to do an impression of the other creature, which I've already said it, which is the shark. Normally we get the audience to shout out what it is that we think it is the sea lions are trying to do an impression of. But I'm not going to ask you guys to do that today, but Gina's going to do that impression. This is where Ruby comes off her rock. She's very predictable. She is having training sessions to hopefully stay there on her rock, but she always comes up in this bit, which is not to worry. But the dorsal fin of a killer whale is a very similar shape and very similar colour to that of a sea lion. Of course, it's nowhere near as big as a sea lion's front flipper, but as you can see, this is her impression of a shark. Now, most sharks are harmless. Most sharks, they don't attack sea lions, and they don't eat people either. But there's three types of shark which do. And that's the bull shark, the tiger shark, and the big great white shark are all very dangerous to a sea lion in the wild. Sea lions only go into the sea to catch fish. Once they're caught in a fish to sustain themselves, they're back on dry land where they are safe from those predators. And sea lions sleep for around every 12 to 14 hours within every 24, and it's all done on land. They can only hold their breath for around 20 minutes at the very most, and of course they only go into the sea, as I say, to catch fish, and then they're back on land where they are safe from those predators. But Gina, if you spotted a shark or killer whale in the water, what would you do? That's right, you'd swim as fast as you can to the shore, get onto dry land, and then what would you do? You would hide where you know the sharks cannot follow you. Good impression there, Gina. Well done. But if you are out in open water and you're too far away from the shore to escape from a predator, like a killer whale or shark, then there's another thing that you can do. Because, of course, if you're a young sea lion with lots of energy and you've got your health and fitness on your side, sea lions are very, very agile. They can twist and turn very quickly in the water and can hopefully confuse a predator that's trying to catch and eat them. So, Anya here, what would you do if there was a killer whale or a shark on your tail? What would you do? Hey, you do a backflip or a somersault. Twist and turn very quickly in the water. That'll hopefully confuse the predator trying to catch and eat you, and hopefully give you an opportunity to escape and swim as fast as you can to dry land. But unfortunately, older sea lions will be a lot slower. They cannot maneuver just as quick or as nimble as a younger sea lion, and that would lead to fatality with an older sea lion. And also, their eyesight, the older they become, isn't the greatest. So again, they may not see an approaching killer whale or a shark, and again, that will lead to fatality with a wild sea lion. But there's another creature which is very, very dangerous, or another Yeah, creature, and that's us. And we are very detrimental to all wildlife across the world. We are responsible for all of the planet's endangered species becoming extinct. There are too many people on our planet now. We are overpopulating the planet beyond its natural capability, and we're using more and more of its natural resources. So please have a very clear conscience when it comes to recycling with your rubbish and your litter. We have our own problems here at the zoo and of course in our town centres and our parks, and that is pollution, litter and rubbish. The seagulls you can see behind you are waiting for any rubbish that you may have left in the arena. And especially in the summer months when it's very busy and of course people like to sit in the Sea Arena and have a picnic and have their lunch, we like to ask if you could please pop your rubbish in the bin. Try not to drop it on the floor because the seagulls will look for any plastic items, any litter objects, fly over somewhere to eat it away from the other seagulls, and if they drop any of these plastic items in our enclosures, could be very dangerous to the animals within our care. So we don't want you to drop it on the floor, in the zoo or out of the zoo, in the streets or in the parks. So what does it belong, Gina? You pick it up. We don't want it in our pool, we don't want it in the floor. Where should everyone place their rubbish? In the bin, just like that. So please follow our Gina's example, please pop your rubbish in the bin. That would be greatly appreciated. And also recycle. Please recycle, because we can only do our best to try and make sure that we're not wasting and putting too much in landfills and of course ruining our environment as a result. So hopefully you've enjoyed some of the behaviours that you've seen in our demonstration. As I said, Ruby is in training at the moment, and the older she gets, the more we do with her, the better and more settled she will be. She's still very young sea lion, so of course she's still very playful by nature and she still wants to do her own thing, but the older she gets and the more training she gets, of course the more settled she will become and the better she will be with all the other sea lions. But on behalf of Ruby, Anya, Gina and me, thank you very much for listening this afternoon. If you have any questions, I'll be stepping outside the arena there to answer any questions you have about the sea lions or about the training, and please enjoy the rest of your day here at Blackpool Zoo. Goodbye and thank you. Take it away, Ruby. She's waving this out. Thank you.